All right, everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. But again, good morning. Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin here with Fluxx. Thank you for joining me today in our training on styling your forms on Fluxx. This training is meant to be an overview of the styling tab, how it works, and why it's important to keep certain things in mind while you style your forms. If you should have any questions at any time during the webinar, please go ahead and type it in the questions section. We're going to be dedicating the last few minutes for questions and answers, so we'll be saving all of your questions for then. If we don't get to your question in time, we'll try to curate those and answer them offline. Okay, let's get started. In this Styling Your Forms webinar, we'll be answering the following questions. What are the 3 preset styles and what do they do? Margins. What happens when you adjust the margins using pixels? Border. Under what circumstances is it important to have these? Padding. Is there such a thing as too much or too little padding? And last, how can the text editor be helpful in styling my forms? And as I said earlier, there will be a Q&A after the overview. So before we get started, you may be wondering, why is styling important? Well, styling is used in text areas, fields, groups, spacers, or components. Styling is used for both aesthetic and for practical reasons. So let's say there are actions that you may want to, sections you may want to attract attention to. For example, you may want to highlight a section for internal notes between employees. Another instance is when you send a request back to a grantee and need revisions. You can make them notice the section that is grantee revisions required by using styling. You can highlight instructions or directions that are important, such as documents required. For any other sections that you want to call attention to, for example, the financial section, styling will also prove to be incredibly useful. So let's dive right into our first topic here. What are the 3 preset styles and what do they do? In order to get an idea what something looks like without the preset styles, we'll first show you a group element that has no styling whatsoever, aside for a little bit of spacing. So let's look at a grant request form. So we're here in the admin panel, and we're going to find the grant request form we want to edit. We're going to use this one here. And here in the preview mode, we'll locate a grouping with no styling. So grant information group doesn't have too much styling, just has a couple of spacers here and there. As you can tell, this grouping, like I said, doesn't have any styling. You can't tell if this is something important or required, and it isn't necessarily aesthetically pleasing. So now I'm going to show you how to apply styling with our preset options. In order to get to the styling tab, you'll need to go into the builder mode of this theme. Then you'll click on whatever field you like to style. You'll know that the field is activated because it will turn a light blue. And now you're going to notice that we have 4 tabs when we're in the builder. They're located right here. First, we have the Attributes tab, which contains options for that particular field type. It's the first tab. We also have our Values tab, which appears when a select field is chosen and there are more than 2 possible answers. There's the Visibility tab, which determines who sees what and when. But of course, last but not least, we have the Styling tab, which holds the settings for margins, padding, border radius, width, alignment, text color, and background color for a field or grouping. So as you can see here, we have three preset styles. They are compliance warnings, required documents, and compliance checklists. So we're going to go over these three. So the compliance warning preset will give a light red background to the group. It will also add a red line under the header and make the text boxes white. There's also going to be a slight curve to the border radius. And of course, please note that you could change the basic color of any preset warning by selecting a different background color, but all the other settings will remain the same. The next preset option in the dropdown is the required document preset. This preset is a little bit sleeker, and there is a black border around the entire group. Once again, there's a slight border radius, and the group is perfectly centered in the middle of the form. Now, the last preset option in the dropdown is the compliance checklist. This preset is somewhat similar to the required documents option. However, this one will have a light yellow background. As you can see, it would also be centered in the middle of the form and has a slight border radius as well. Okay, let's move on to margins. So margins, what happens when you adjust the pixels? Adjusting the margin will change the area around the field or content you are editing outside of the border space. Again, this property is calculated in pixels. So if you increase the margin number, it will add more space between the border of the field or the content you're editing and other fields and content on the form. Now let's see what happens when we play around with the different options of where we can change the amount of pixels for each individual margin. First, let's put 100 on the left option. By doing that, we will get a sizable amount of space on the left side of the group. Now let's change both the top and bottom to have 100 pixels. And now, as I'll show you later, both the top and the bottom will have the group will have extra space. And then lastly, we're going to go and see what happens both on the right and left options to have a margin of 100. So what that's going to do is we'll have a column of space on either side of the text. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what this would look like. So as you can see here, this has 100 pixels just to the left, 100 pixels to the top and on the top and bottom of the border, and then this is 100 on both left and right. So that's pretty much going to do it for margins. Let's move on to our next question. And that's borders. Why is it important to have these? Well, the border setting will add a border around your field and content. The border is a solid line that will appear on whichever side you've selected using the checkboxes. First, let's see what changing the border radius does. We'll go ahead and check top, bottom, left, and right. We're going to enter 9 as the border radius. We're going to save. Okay, so the border radius will add a curve to each corner of the border. So let's go ahead and see how this would look. So as you can see here, grouping without a border, and then this is the grouping with the border, and you can see the border radius curving here. All right, so let's move on to our next question, which is padding. Is there such a thing as too much or too little padding? So padding works a lot like the margin settings. They're also calculated in pixels, and they both adjust spacing. The difference here is that padding will adjust the space around the field and content within the border. So let's see padding. Put 9, bottom, 9 on the left, 9 on the right. And you can add some coloring to showcase the padding by dragging the cursor until you find the color that you want. Okay, so let's go ahead and save. Let's go ahead and see what the finished product would look like on a form. So as you can see here, this is going to be a group with no padding. Okay. And this is the group with padding. You can see the space just above the header here. Okay, so now that we've finished padding, let's move on to the last section of the webinar, which is our text editor. Okay, so how can the text editor be helpful in styling my forms? So although the text editor is not part of the styling tab, it is one of the most useful styling tools at our disposal. The text editor is a formatting tool for text, images, and tables. It works similarly to Microsoft Word, Google Docs, and Pages. So let's simply locate the text element. And then enter the text editor. The text editor has a vast variety of functions, and I'll define most of them for you here. This modal that you see right now is the basic text editor layout. First, let's look at the Formats menu. Here you'll find headings, inline options, blocks, and alignment options. Let's start by looking at headings. So these headings act like HTML tags, where heading 1 will be the largest heading style, and heading 6 will have a heading size smaller than a normal paragraph text. Here are your classic inline options for formatting characters. You'll recognize the ability to bold, italicize, underline, strike through, and more. The most common inline options can be seen outside of the Formats menu. Next, we have ways of putting text into blocks. So this will change a section of text all at once to a block of paragraph text, a block quote, which indents from left to right, a div tag, which is used for alignment, and a pre-tag, which brings in content as originally styled. By highlighting the section, again, these are HTML style settings. And then lastly, we have alignment. This will shift your body of text either to the left, to the right, or to the center of the text window. Now let's go over all of our ellipse options. The first is our bullet style list. As you can see, you can have the shape of the bullet be a circle, a disc, or a square. The second option to list items is our numbered list next to the bullets button. You can number either the use of letters or numbers to list items. For instance, you could use lowercase letters, Roman numerals, or numbers. Now let's discuss the ability to insert and edit images. You'll find this button to the left of your options, denoted by a painting canvas icon. So there's two different tabs here. The first is General Options. This allows you to add an image using its URL address. So if you're using a Chrome browser, you could right-click on an image and select Copy Link Address to find the image address. Then you could just go ahead and paste it directly into the source field here. Now the second tab is the Advanced Image Setting tab. This allows you to add spacing around your image or to add a border. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and talk about the text color menu. The text color tool changes the color of the text. And right next to that is the background color tool. Here, you're going to be able to highlight your text in a different color. Okay, moving on. Next, we're going to talk about the Insert menu. The Insert menu gives you the ability to insert videos, images, links, special characters, and horizontal lines. Okay, we're moving on to the table. This tool is going to be useful when it comes to organizing your content in a table. You can customize the size of your table by height in rows and width in columns. You can also change the dimensions of the table itself by creating a table by pixels. Let me show you what I mean. Let's make a 2 by 2 table. So then you could change the pixel height, width, spacing, and padding. Okay, let's move on to the advanced settings. And now you can change the colors of the borders and the background of the table. Okay, next we're going to look at the source code. So if you click on the Tools menu, you should see the source code option. Please keep in mind that you'll need HTML experience to interact with this tab. This is the tab that you'll be able to enter HTML code directly into. Okay, that's going to conclude today's webinar on styling your forms on Fluxx, and I hope you enjoyed it. If there are any features that I did not cover extensively, we're going to be hosting trainings in the future to address these. You may also learn about any of these features by visiting our knowledge base. So let's go ahead and open it up to some questions. First question is, what would you say is one of the best tips when it comes to styling our forms? So maintaining a similar format throughout your forms will make it more aesthetically pleasing, as well as make it easier for the people looking at the forms to identify sections that need more attention compared to others. Next question here is, how did you get the light green color as the background on the padding sample? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go back into the Builder window. And we're going to go to our Styling tab. And there you go. So it's a great question. If you ever want to change the background color of a grouping, just simply drag your cursor on the background color tool until you see your desired shade. And again, you're going to want to add a border. Border radius is optional to highlight the field and fence it in the coloring, but this is going to be where you do it. Next question, are there certain colors that are better to use versus others? The answer is generally yes. Neutral colors are best, as having too bright colors can be distracting. But if you look at the preset options in the dropdown, you can get a good idea of what colors are good to use. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and call it for today. Thanks for your questions. You'll be able to find video recordings of past webinars and any continued Q&A on our knowledge base. So today we went over styling your forms. We learned the 3 preset styles and what they do. Learned about margins and what happens when you adjust the margins using pixels. We went over the importance of borders, the importance of padding, and then last but not least, we went over the utility of the text editor and styling. So to learn more and access the video recording of this webinar, along with any extended Q&A, please go ahead and visit our knowledge base at fluxx.io/knowledge. There you'll be able to find a list of our upcoming webinars, links to register for future webinars, recordings of past webinars under the training webinars section. Or, of course, feel free to ask us that support, and we'll be happy to help you. Thanks again for joining us today, and we hope to host you again at our next training. Have a great day.